So let me start today with this. Does anyone listening or watching remember the 2013 Bears season, specifically Week 17 versus Green Bay? Anyone recall that? If you don't, let me refresh your memory. The Bears entered that game needing one win to win the division. Had they beaten Green Bay, they'd be in the postseason. They were at home, too. All they had to do was win, and everything would be fine. What ended up happening was Green Bay played exceptionally well. They always kept the Bears behind, but by one possession. Every time the Bears had momentum, Green Bay would come in right away and stifle it. And at the end of the game, I'll never forget this, Jay Cutler from the Packers 25 threw up a last-ditch Hail Mary. It didn't even reach the end zone. After the game, when I saw Green Bay on Soldier Field celebrating their playoff berth, I thought to myself, this is, without question, the most frustrating Bears game I've ever seen. Remember, I'm only 20, so at the time, that was the worst football I'd ever watched. I was distraught, I was angry, and sure enough, everyone else agreed, because the year after that one, Mark Trestman was fired. For years, I put that as my number one most frustrating Bears game. That is until this past Sunday. This past Sunday takes the cake. See, at least that game meant something. At least that Bears team was contending. This one, not so much. I don't know what we watched on Sunday. I'm still trying to piece it together, but it wasn't good. Parts of the Bears team that you could usually depend on weren't even there. The defense, which has been the hallmark for this team all year, couldn't contain Aaron Jones, nor Aaron Rodgers. The time of possession was so skewed that the Bears never had a real chance to score anything until the second quarter. They had one drive in the first quarter that should have ended in a touchdown. More on that in a second. The defense was atrocious. They are entitled to a bad game here and there, but 40-plus points to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in a game in which you really needed to win, that's not going to cut it. Now, it is worth noting, Akeem Hicks was out. It's the first time since 2017, I believe, that Goldman and Hicks were both inactive entering a game. That made a difference. The Bears consistently rushed only 3 guys. There was never any pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He was never sacked, never even taken down. He had all the time in the world to complete passes, dunk through the Bears defense, find guys open downfield. There were blown coverages. Everything went wrong. Remember, that was just the defensive side of it. The defense set the Bears back from the very beginning. And as we all know, it's pretty tough if you're on offense and you're all of a sudden down 20-3 when you've had the ball once or twice. Not easy to do. Now, I know all of you are probably here waiting for me to trash Mitch Trubisky, to say that I was wrong. Not going to happen. Believe it or not, and before you stop listening, hear what I have to say. He didn't have that bad of a game. Here's why. 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Did he make mistakes? Yes. Those 2 picks, major mistakes. Can't be throwing a ball downfield in double coverage. Can't be throwing a ball into triple coverage and hoping for a different result. Those were issues. But the last time I checked, how many interceptions did everyone give Nick Foles to prove himself? Oh, that's right, 8. Wait a minute. The last time I checked, Nick Foles had the longest active streak for interceptions in a game. 6 straight games of at least 1 pick or more. Wait a minute. Why didn't we talk about that? Why was that swept under the rug by the media and Bears fans? Why did everybody go after Mitch only for the 2 picks? And don't even talk to me about that fumble. There was a face mask, 2 of them, and it wasn't called. That should have been nullified. When someone's grabbing onto your face mask and you lose the football, what do you expect to happen? You think Mitch is going to hold on to that when there's a penalty being committed against him? No. And it's just stupid to sit here and say, well, he shouldn't have fumbled it. Penalties were not called and they should have been there. And that's a shame. Mitch had 3 touchdowns. The Bears scored 24 points. It's the most they've scored since Mitch started. Nick Foles never scored 24 points, and I know it was in garbage time, but that's significant. That's something. David Montgomery, great game too. He helped in the run game. He helped offensively. Mitch moved a couple of times. It seemed like for the majority of the night, people were just looking for ways to tear down Mitch. And he gave them the 2 picks. He gave them the fumble. But he also gave them 3 touchdowns. We're never focusing on the positive, which is odd because all we did was focus on the positive for Nick Foles. He threw a pick. Doesn't matter. The Bears scored 10 points against Indianapolis. Who cares? No one said anything. No one said a word. No one cared. See, when Foles played, it was offensive line, wide receivers, head coaching, play calling. When Mitch plays, it's Mitch, and Mitch. All of a sudden, all of those concerns about the wideouts and how the Bears have no weapons, the O-line, which was decimated again, Bill Lazor calling plays, none of that mattered anymore. Why does it not matter for Mitch, but it matters for Nick? Why are we making excuses for Nick Foles, but only blaming Trubisky for his mistakes? Mitch did not have the best game, but he didn't do that bad either. And it's irresponsible to say he's 10 times worse. This proves that Mitch is horrible. That didn't prove anything. Ask yourself this question. How would Nick Foles have done against Green Bay? My guess is pretty much the same. We all know Foles is due for at least 1 or 2 picks a game. That's a fact. You can't debate me on that. So he would have had 1 or 2 picks. What else? No passing yards. If you think the Bears would have been in that game with Nick Foles starting, you're surely mistaken. It made no difference. It didn't matter who was starting at quarterback. But for some people, many people I should say, they still believe this is a Mitch issue. If Mitch is gone, the Bears are fine. You're wrong. Mitch was put into, I would say, an almost impossible situation. Here's why. The guy gets benched, takes reps with the second string and practice squad guys for weeks. Then all of a sudden, hey, you're the starter. Go in against the best team in our division and win. Don't just play well, win. That's a joke. The Bears set him up for failure. And it happened. Once again, Mitch is the scapegoat. Mitch is better than Nick. That's a fact. I will say, though, that this goes further than the quarterback controversy. It does. Even though I know that Mitch was set up to fail, it goes much further than that. Coaching, GM, all of it, I think it needs to go. I think it's time for the Bears to admit we don't have much. Ryan Pace has done nothing significant for this team. I mean, think about what he's done since he's become the Bears GM. Drafting Kevin White, drafting Adam Shaheen, drafting Leonard Floyd, drafting Mitch Trubisky, hiring Matt Nagy, supposedly an offensive guru who has been everything but an offensive guru. All of the decisions that Ryan Pace has made over the years has put the Bears in this position. This isn't a Mitch and Foles thing. It's a Ryan Pace issue. It does start at the top. Changes need to be made. You can't be equipping a team with virtually nothing and expecting them to win. The Bears traded away everybody for Khalil Mack. Stupid move. Say what you want about Khalil Mack. Great player. But he's only really had one good year here in Chicago. 2018, great season. 2019, regression. This year, regression. It's not all his fault. Hakeem Hicks has been hurt. That hurts him. But still, was it really worth trading all of your future for one defensive player? Did it ever occur to you that maybe you could use another wide receiver? Maybe you could use O-line help. Maybe you could get another quarterback. Did any of that come into your mind, Ryan Pace? Apparently not. Apparently that was never talked about. Apparently it was never even thought about. That's a problem. That's a big problem for this team. Changes need to be made up top. Changes need to be made personnel-wise. You want to talk about mismanagement. This team is severely mismanaged. Let's see, we need O-line help, but I'm going to go out and draft a tight end. He'll be good, right? And by the way, Cole Kmet's a bust. Side note, Cole Kmet's a bust. That needs to be said. Dropping another potential touchdown from Mitch Trubisky early in the first quarter. Again, it hasn't worked. I'd like to see him in a different setting. Maybe, who knows, he'll go to Miami or he'll go to some other place, and like Adam Shaheen, he'll shine. But he's not working here. The Bears needed O-line help. They needed a wide receiver, and Darnell Mooney is not cutting it either. I'm so sick of the Darnell Mooney praise. He's a fifth rounder. He means nothing to this team right now. He's had a couple of nice deep catches. Who cares? He is not going to impact how this team does. An O-line would have. Another big-time wide receiver would have. Matt Nagy calling plays to suit Trubisky would have. All of these things could have helped out the Bears, but they were never done. Never talked about, never conceived, never executed. And the Bears are where they are right now. The positive, believe it or not, is that the Bears are still technically eligible for a postseason berth. The Bears have somewhat of an easy schedule coming up. Lions, Texans, Vikings, Jaguars, Packers. They're 5-6. There is a path for them going 9-7 and sneaking in. The question is, do the Bears want that? Do the fans want that? I don't know. It would be nice to see Mitch have some redemption, maybe win out, lead the team to the playoffs. It'd be a great story, but it would put the team behind. If the objective is to rebuild, if the objective is to somehow recoup what you lost in the Khalil Mack trade in terms of picks, and you really shouldn't be winning right now. Don't waste your time trying to go 9-7, finish 5-11, 6-10. But we don't know what they're going to do yet. It is interesting to note, though, they're still in this. As crazy as this season has been, they are still alive, and plenty alive. Do they want to win, though? I don't know. I don't recommend it. I don't think so. But it would be nice to talk about. It would be nice to see Mitch prove people wrong, maybe help them get to the postseason again, but probably not going to happen. I also saw this tweet, and I have to comment on this. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Quote, seriously, if you ever believe the Trubisky propaganda again, you have only yourself to blame. Right, because this is propaganda, this is politics. There's no propaganda here. anyone who knows about the game of football knows. Right now, in the moment, Mitch is much better than Nick Foles. Leaps and bounds better. What does it take for people to understand that he's not the Super Bowl MVP anymore? I'm serious. What needs to happen for people to realize this guy is not who he was in 2017? You have only yourself to blame. That's so smug. I hate that. What, like this is a joke? Propaganda? What are you talking about? Trubisky did not have a bad game. He had an okay one. It would have been much better had he not thrown the 2 picks, but he did. No one lashed out when Nick Foles continuously threw picks week after week. Why are we lashing out for 2 picks from Mitch in one game? He was benched prematurely, and now he's being ridiculed prematurely. Did anyone watch the same game I watched? I don't think so. I think people are just sitting here actively looking for ways to tear down Mitch. I believe that. He didn't have a horrible game. And ask yourself, how would Nick Foles have done? Probably the same, similar. He would have thrown a pick, maybe 2. If Nick Foles was in, the outcome would be the same. There wouldn't be a difference. Why is that so hard for people to understand? We do know, though, that this goes much farther beyond Mitch and Nick, even if we know that Trubisky is better. Changes need to be made up top. There have been too many blunders that we've just let fly by, haven't talked about enough. Who knows, maybe the whole quarterback controversy thing is a way for us to not really realize what's going on with this team. We're so focused on the Nick versus Mitch debate. Did we ever stop and think? Look at some of these draft picks. Look at some of these signings. Does this add up? Kevin White, Mitch, Leonard Floyd, Cole Kmet, Adam Shaheen. The Bears go out, they sign Robert Quinn. The Bears trade their future for Khalil Mack. That's a laundry list right there. And none of it is good. Even if you like Khalil Mack, and I do, that trade was not worth it. Was not worth the Bears' energy to give up their entire future to pawn it all away for a guy who's performed for 1 year. These are the real issues for this team. These are the problems that they face right now. Something's got to give. Something has to change. I hope it does. More to come here on Sports Talk Chicago. My interview with JJ Stankovich comes up next, so stay tuned. Hey, do you want to make some money this weekend? What if I told you that I could offer you $250 free to bet on any game you want? All you have to do is go to sportstalkchicago.com/cash, sportstalkchicago.com/cash. You must be 21 or over. You must be an Illinois resident. You can bet $250 free on any game you want. Bears Lions this upcoming weekend, college basketball, college football. All of it is at your fingertips, and you have a chance to win legitimate money. Go to sportstalkchicago.com/cash, sportstalkchicago.com/cash. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.